Welcome to the Newark Regional Business Partnerships Engage and Exchange podcast. Join us for business insights and meaningful conversations with NRBP's member organizations. Thank you to our podcast host sponsor, the Martin Tuchman School of Management at NJIT. Additional support for NRBP's Engage and Exchange podcast is provided by PSEG, New Jersey Urban News, Main Street Advisory, LLC. Hello, I am Ferlanda Fox-Nixon, President and CEO of the Newark Regional Business Partnership. We are the premier chamber of commerce for the greater Newark region. Our guest today is Jaramogi Adams, founder and CEO of Jakara Strategies. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off by learning a little bit about you. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, well, let's see. Everything kind of starts with my name. So my name being Jaramogi. It is Kenyan. It's Kiswahili. It means one who travels often. And with a name like that, growing up in Brooklyn, I knew that I couldn't stay in Brooklyn. So that was sort of the guiding force behind my career. Spent a bunch of years at an enterprise, 10 years living overseas in 4 different countries. And then I came back to go to graduate school and then sort of decided that I wanted to move into startups in the tech space. So I'm what you would call a generalist by trade, but really my focus is just figuring out ways to help people, help organizations.
That's awesome. So now what about Jarkara Strategies?
So Jakara Strategies, it's born out of all of my experiences. As I mentioned, I've had a career in finance. I've had a career in operational excellence. I was once a chief of staff to a CIO, so that's how I moved into the technology space. And then I've been like a COO for several startups. So with that type of experience, it's really hard to find a job description that literally will speak to one thing that I can do. So what I've decided to do is to create a company for me that allows me to take on a bunch of different projects and sort of engage all parts of my brain.
So describe your ideal client.
My ideal client is someone who wants to do something really important but lacks capacity. The way I've sort of visualized this is, when you have a pilot, they're flying a plane towards the North Star, and they have to challenge headwinds, they have to battle thunderstorms, they have to move, bob, and weave, they have to talk to the customers. But every now and again, you need to jump out of the plane and fix the wings. And what I've noticed with a lot of companies and CEOs is they try to fix the wings themselves. Where I can come in is I can be a customer on your plane, and I can fix the wing while you continue to drive it.
Okay. And so are there any success stories you'd like to share with us?
Well, one success story in particular would be working with the Urban League of Essex County. So in particular, meeting someone and meeting the CEO of the Urban League of Essex County, looking to figure out a way to build a business plan around her tech house. And what I was able to do was come in and meet her, meet other individuals, figure out the plan that they wanted to execute, and then put it in words. And so that's one of the success stories that I've had with my company. And as a result of that, I've actually now built out another 4 or 5 business plans. There's a lot of people with great experience. They know what they want to do, but they need a way to articulate it both in words to investors, so building out pitch decks, and also to articulate it to either their own themselves, but also to their employees.
So for a person who's traveled so many places, why did you settle on Newark?
When I returned from overseas, I did settle in Manhattan, got married, moved to the Bronx, but we really wanted home ownership. And I had a close friend who lived in Newark, fraternity brother in fact, and who also does real estate. And while we were looking around New York, he says, you really should come take a look at New Jersey, and in particular Newark, and he lives in Ironbound. And so when he brought us to Newark, we looked at a few houses, and we actually liked one. We liked the area, we liked the food, we liked the commute to the city, and so it just felt like a perfect next step to begin home ownership.
And what would you think your company's mark could be in the city?
I've spent a lot of time talking to individuals and networking who specifically are in the nonprofit space. It's a huge amount of nonprofit leaders in Newark. And we have grand ideas. There's things that we want to do. We want to help people. Their social impact, they're mission driven. And though I had a long career in enterprise and financial services, I feel like there's a way for me to use all that experience to actually also help people. So when I hear some of the conversations and hear what nonprofits are doing, hear some of their pain points, as someone who is a journalist, I feel like I can come into your organization and help you figure out how to sew up some of those pain points and put together a solid plan. Even more so with nonprofits, they're also need to figure out ways to fundraise. And so when you have a solid story, then you also are more apt to get more funding. And I feel like that's a great place for me to be and to support Newark.
And how can potential clients find you?
So I do have a website.
Oh, good.
My website is Jakara.com. I've also just recently started posting on social media, so I'm doing my best to build out my brand and also doing my best to network more. So right now, I'm building an online presence, and also you can meet me at your closest networking event.
Okay. And that's a nice segue to why NRBP? You're a relatively new member of
Yes.
the organization. Why did you join?
So I joined NRBP. One, as I mentioned earlier, I actually got my first customer through NRBP in Newark. But also because when you go into these events and you see all of these leaders, they're there to represent their organizations in ways that show that they care about what it is they do. They're meeting other talented individuals who are very passionate about what it is they do. And I often find that the collaboration and the partnership that comes out of these sorts of events ends up being very powerful because you're taking one person who's really engaged and heavily thinking about the population and another person who's heavily engaged and thinking about the population. You bring them together, and it just feels like there's a powerful connection that can happen. That happened to me once. It's been happening with me since then, and I'm looking forward to future events where I can also just, again, meet individuals, understand their pain points, see if there's a way I can help, see if there's a way I can recommend someone else who might be able to help because, it just pays to pay it forward. And I think that NRBP just does a fantastic job of bringing those individuals together.
So you've mentioned that you're a generalist, but what would you say is your niche?
My niche would be operations, and in particular, strategic operations. Given the arc of my career, I was never someone who felt comfortable staying in one sort of linear space. So even though I started off in finance and I thoroughly enjoyed finance, I think understanding numbers is the backbone of business. And if you can speak in numbers, that really gives you an opportunity to walk into almost any boardroom. And so I wanted to do that first, get grounded in numbers. Then when I moved into operational excellence, it was really an internal consultant, meeting with leaders, figuring out what their pain points were, and then using project management experience to end-to-end manage that project until completion. And that might be something around new product development. It can be something around cutting costs or, looking at your org structure and figuring out a different way to set it up to maximize ROI or benefit. And then finally, when I was a chief of staff for a CIO, that's when I started working around design thinking, really looking into people, tools, and processes and how they sort of galvanize to execute the North Star, the mission. And with that type of career and trajectory, the single thread that's always been there is this ability to help people be better at what they do. And so I enjoy that. And so that's why I landed on operations. And in particular for Jakara strategies, what I'm focused on is this sort of new knowledge worker, which is called the fractional knowledge worker. Okay. So you'll hear things like fractional chief of staff or fractional CFO. With startups, they really don't have the funding to bring on a full-time person, and they don't need a full-time person when they're so small. Okay. So if you can bring someone for 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week, that gives me the ability to work with several different individuals all in one week. Mm-hmm. And I like that because I get to pop into different areas and also just learn a ton about different industries. So that's where I've sort of landed with Jakara Strategies, is as a fractional chief operating officer.
Okay, very good. And so you're talking about 1099s versus W-2?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So to come into an organization, figure out what your pain point is, submit an SOW if you like the work and what we can produce together.
So some people may not know what a SOW is.
Oh, sorry, a statement of work.
Okay.
So produce a statement of work. And once we are aligned with what it is you want me to deliver, then we sign the statement of work and I get started.
Awesome. And then you seem to be a master networker. So what would be some tips that you would give to people who wanted to attend an event at NRBP? What skills and techniques have you used to be successful at our events?
The big one is listening.
Okay.
Listening is really important, especially if you have whatever your skill set might be. When you're listening to what someone is saying, you have an opportunity to reword it in the frame of what it is you're good at. So if I hear someone saying, I'm looking to do X, Y, Z, and I'm not sure how to do X, Y, Z, or my company focuses on this, I can then come in at that particular point in time and say, and ask more questions because I've listened to what they've said. They give me more details. And then you also say, well, have you thought about this? And networking is oftentimes we look at it as a way to get business, but it's also a way to sort of impart your own knowledge. And you know, to a small extent, when people understand what it is you're capable of, that's how sometimes then you get callbacks saying, hey, do you remember when you said this? And so networking events are often a time to actually become memorable if you've listened and you've perhaps even supported someone in the smallest way in one of these events. And so that's a tip that I would offer.
Oh, that's a great tip. So in addition to your website, what are other ways you're hoping to brand your business?
Writing.
Okay.
But personal writing as well as writing about topics that interest me. For instance, I have a background in operations and strategic operations. I think there's a way to apply that to people's personal lives. One sort of way of thinking about this, and I've thought about this a lot, is we have this term in business where we call it work-life balance. I haven't believed in work-life balance for over 20 years. When you're someone who's constantly thinking about improvements, it just never shuts off. So my reframing of work-life balance is called your committed time versus your non-committed time. And I feel this is more apropos because even if you think about it, work is not only when you're in the office, it's also when you're with your family. It's when you're with children. It's when you're with your spouse. So I consider that to be committed time. If we honestly think about committed versus non-committed time, on average, people are probably spending 5% of their time non-committed. I think a goal should be to aim for 15 to 20% of non-committed time. For me, that's an annual baseball trip that I take with my best friend. We go and see baseball stadiums. Now, I don't know what we're going to do in a couple years because this year we're going to see Stadium 27 and 28. But, you know, it's something that I think is important is to find that time that you're just dedicating to yourself because that's the way you can actually find more balance.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us today, and we wish you all great success in what you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. Today's inspirational quote comes from Benjamin Franklin. Diligence is the mother of good luck. Thanks again for listening. Thank you for listening to NRBP's Engage in Exchange podcast. Tune in next time for more NRBP member organization insights. For more information about our organization, visit www.newarkrbp.org. Thank you again to our podcast host sponsor, the Martin Tuchman School of Management at NJIT. Additional support for NRBP's Engage in Exchange podcast is provided by PSEG, New Jersey Urban News, Main Street Advisory, LLC.